An unusual weather pattern is about to dominate the next 10 days across the United States, and what makes this remarkable is how different it looks from typical May setups. You're going to see severe weather threats bouncing around from the southeast to the plains, a persistent upper-level trough sitting in a very strange location, and temperature swings that are going to feel more like March than mid-spring. So, let's get right into the forecast. Before diving into what's coming, I need to address the devastating tornado outbreak that unfolded across Mississippi yesterday evening. Multiple tornado emergencies were declared across southwestern Mississippi, with large and destructive tornadoes confirmed near Brookhaven, Monticello, and surrounding communities. The National Weather Service confirmed at least 2 intense tornadoes that remained on the ground for extended periods, producing significant damage to homes, mobile homes, and RVs across Lincoln, Lawrence, and Jefferson Davis counties. Early reports indicate fatalities and numerous critical injuries. If you have family or friends in these areas, please reach out and check on them. These were serious, dangerous tornadoes that caused catastrophic damage in multiple communities. Our thoughts are with everyone affected by this tragedy. Now, turning to the forecast ahead. The Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk area outlined for severe weather today, stretching across the Florida Panhandle, southern Georgia, and southern Alabama. You'll also see a marginal risk extending northward into the Carolinas and westward back through Mississippi into eastern Texas. The primary threats today are damaging wind gusts and isolated tornadoes, with the severe weather window concentrated during the morning hours through early afternoon. If you're in Tallahassee, Valdosta, or near the Pensacola area, you need to have multiple ways to receive weather warnings this morning. The tornado threat is lower than yesterday, but any storms that do become severe could still produce brief spin-ups. By this afternoon, storm activity should begin weakening across the Florida Panhandle and southeast. Friday brings a shift in focus. Severe weather potential moves westward into the central and southern plains. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Springfield, Missouri will need to stay weather-aware Friday afternoon and evening. We're looking at isolated threats of large hail and damaging winds, with maybe a low-end tornado possibility. Saturday continues the plains focus with Oklahoma and Kansas seeing isolated severe storm potential, mainly centered on hail. The overall severe weather threat Saturday looks relatively modest at this point. What's driving all of this comes down to a highly unusual atmospheric configuration for early May. There's a large upper-level trough positioned over the Great Lakes region, and it's been essentially locked in place. This isn't where you typically find troughs in May. Usually this time of year, we're seeing storm systems moving over the Rockies and then diving southeastward into the plains, Midwest, and Southeast. Instead, this trough over the Great Lakes is steering everything. It's created strong southwesterly flow aloft that contributed to yesterday's tornado outbreak in the Dixie Alley. It also brought rare early May snowfall to Colorado, and this pattern isn't going anywhere quickly. As we head into the weekend and early next week, this trough will remain in roughly the same position. Cold air will continue filtering into the Midwest and Ohio Valley, keeping temperatures well below normal and conditions on the wet side. What you're going to notice if you live in these areas is persistent clouds, occasional rain, and temperatures that feel more like late March than early May. Thursday's severe weather begins early. As of this morning, a large cluster of thunderstorms is stretched from New Orleans eastward into Georgia. The strongest cells right now are located across Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. These storms will reach peak intensity around midday, producing damaging wind gusts, isolated large hail, and possibly 1 or 2 brief tornadoes. The threat diminishes through the afternoon across the Florida Panhandle. Maybe 1 or 2 strong storms linger near Jacksonville around 6 to 7 p.m., but overall, severe weather should quiet down across the southeast by evening. Friday afternoon is when things fire up across the Central Plains. Expect a significant explosion of storm development around 4 to 5 p.m., with thunderstorms stretching from St. Louis all the way back to Oklahoma City. Damaging winds and large hail are my primary concerns. An isolated tornado is possible, especially across eastern Oklahoma, where wind shear profiles look slightly more favorable. However, significant tornado parameters remain very low across the entire area. Most of the storms should weaken after sunset Friday evening as daytime heating shuts off. Saturday sees another attempt at severe weather development across Oklahoma and Kansas, but confidence is low. Storm fuel in the form of atmospheric instability looks limited. I'd be surprised if we see much organized, severe activity Saturday. Now let's talk about next week because this is where the forecast gets particularly interesting. Sunday looks fairly quiet for severe weather. A weak low-pressure system may try to develop across the Dixie Alley, but the environment doesn't look conducive for organizing much. I think Sunday will probably be a calm day overall. Monday and Tuesday, however, could get more active. There's potential for a storm system to develop over Colorado and New Mexico on Monday. If this happens, isolated severe storms could pop up from South Dakota back through the Texas Panhandle Monday afternoon and evening. My confidence in this scenario is fairly low right now. Tuesday has higher potential depending on how quickly that low-pressure system can organize. If you live in Oklahoma, Texas, or Kansas, keep Tuesday on your radar. I don't think the odds of anything widespread or significant are high, but if the timing comes together correctly, Tuesday could bring a more substantial severe weather event to these areas. Wednesday and Thursday next week continue the pattern of scattered severe weather potential across the Great Plains. Maybe some activity pushing into the Midwest and Ohio Valley by next Friday, but it all looks generally low end at this point. Here's something important to understand about the next 7 to 10 days. Most of our severe weather is going to be driven by what meteorologists call mesoscale features. These are very small-scale atmospheric processes rather than large synoptic systems like organized low-pressure areas. What this means for you is that severe weather events will likely be more localized and harder to predict days in advance. We'll need to watch individual days closely as they approach. The predictability beyond about 5 days out is honestly pretty low right now. Now, looking further ahead into the middle and later part of May, there are some signals that a large ridge may build across the Great Plains around May 12th through 17th. If this ridge does develop and strengthen, our severe weather potential across the plains during this time frame will probably drop significantly. High pressure aloft tends to suppress storm development. We'll be monitoring this closely over the next several days to see if this ridge materializes as forecast models currently suggest. Beyond May 19th or so, predictability essentially falls off a cliff. There are just too many variables and too much atmospheric complexity to make confident forecasts that far out. Looking at moisture and instability values for the weekend, Saturday doesn't look particularly impressive. Convective available potential energy, which is essentially storm fuel, is going to be limited across the central and southern plains. Without adequate instability, organized severe weather becomes much less likely. Sunday keeps things fairly quiet as well. As we push into Monday and Tuesday, that's when instability begins increasing again, particularly across the southern plains. Dew point temperatures will climb into the mid to upper 60s across Oklahoma and Texas, providing the moisture needed for strong thunderstorms. Whether we actually see significant severe weather will depend heavily on whether a surface low-pressure system develops and strengthens as forecast. Tuesday currently looks like the day with the highest potential next week, but again, there are still a lot of question marks. Wednesday and Thursday show some storm potential as shortwave energy moves through the region, but it doesn't look particularly robust at this point. The European model is a bit more aggressive with severe weather potential Thursday across the Midwest and Central Plains, but American models are more subdued. Anytime you see model disagreement like this, it tells you confidence is low. By the way, one more thing to mention about this pattern. We're likely going to see multiple small-scale severe weather events over the next week that could be significant enough to warrant close attention. These won't necessarily be massive multi-state outbreaks, but localized events that could still produce dangerous conditions. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so you don't miss any updates. The next 7 days are going to be interesting from a meteorological standpoint. This is genuinely one of the strangest May weather patterns I've seen in quite some time. That upper-level trough parked over the Great Lakes is steering everything, and it's just not a configuration you typically encounter in May. Usually, we're dealing with storm systems coming over the Rockies and then tracking eastward. But this setup is different. While that trough sits up north, there's potential for ridging to build across the Great Plains, which could actually suppress some of our severe weather chances during the middle part of May. But things could definitely change. The forecast is going to evolve considerably over the next several days. I'm planning to have another forecast video for you on Saturday, where I'll discuss any significant pattern changes and update you on the severe weather potential. I expect there will be some notable adjustments to the forecast by then. Thank you for watching today's forecast. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. Remember, if you're in areas affected by yesterday's tornadoes in Mississippi, please stay safe and check on your neighbors. We'll have another update on Saturday. Stay weather aware, and we will see you in the next video.